Welcome to another video by KOMODO, and in this video today we're going to be talking about the 10 most frequently asked questions surrounding heart rate variability or HRV. Let's get started. The question that we probably do get the most is, how does HRV work? So heart rate variability is the time difference in milliseconds of each successive heartbeat. So that can be kind of confusing. So this is not to be confused with BPM, because BPM just gives you an average heart rate over a minute, right? So how many times your heart beats in 1 minute? BPM, beats per minute, very simple. Heart rate variability is actually going a little bit deeper than that and looking at each single heartbeat and the distance in milliseconds from those spikes. And it's looking at the difference between the peak of the what we call the QRS cycle of an ECG. So that's what it's doing. If you're seeing beats, boom, 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 it's measuring the distance from beat A to B, then the difference between B to C, taking into consideration the prior beat. So now let's unpack that a little bit further. We get a lot of questions about time domain and frequency domain. So those are two different things. Then we also get questions about a PPG sensor and an ECG sensor. And then there's also SDNN and RMSSD. These are kind of the key phrases that people normally run into when they're researching heart rate variability. So the first one is time domain and frequency domain. Frequency domain is not prevalent in consumer products. You're not going to find a HRV monitor that uses frequency domain, so I wouldn't even focus on it. But in short, it measures different frequency waves, and there's low frequency and high frequency, and based on an average, that's going to show you whether your HRV is high or low. So kind of confusing. But the one that all consumer products use is the time domain. Now, under time domain, that's the actual measurement of the distance between beats in milliseconds. So under time domain, what I mentioned, we have two formulas, so to speak, of how to actually get this HRV value. That's the value that you'll see on your Apple Watch, on your iOS sleeve, on your Whoop. There's two ways of attaining that number, and one is SDNN and the other one is RMSSD. So SDNN is referred to as the standard deviation of NN intervals. So the NN intervals, as I mentioned before, those are the two peaks of your BPM, and that's what it measures it. It's the height of the BPM. Like if you look at a BPM signal or you look at an ECG signal, that's the top point of when your heartbeat actually goes boom, boom. So SDNN is measuring the distance between those two, and it's giving you an average throughout a certain period of time. So this is the most common used formula that we see on the Apple Watch, we see on Fitbits, lots of other products. So RMSSD is the root mean square of successive differences. Just another loaded jargon phrase, but essentially what it means is RMSSD is taking your HRV live. So second to second, it's actually compiling the data as you go. So it's pretty much, to put it simply, it's real-time ECG, it's real-time heart rate variability monitoring, as opposed to SDNN, which is taking your heart rate variability number over a certain period of time, whether it's an hour, a day, whatever the case is. Question number 2, what does HRV tell you? So HRV can really tell you a lot of things. And in basic terms, heart rate variability is looking at the most primitive part of your body, which is your autonomic nervous system. And that is the part of your body that controls involuntary actions like digestion and sweating and your fight or flight response. You know, we've all heard of the fight or flight. And essentially, depending on how you're using it and what you're using it for, it can show you a lot of things in terms of your stress level and how your environmental factors affect your overall stress. Shows you how you recover from workouts, shows you your recovery levels. It can show you how you react to certain foods, right? So if you think about measuring HRV, whatever product you choose, it's going to give you a score, right? So with Whoop or whatever, you'll get a score out of 100. With the iOS sleeve, you get a 5-star score, right? So if you're recording and you have a fairly low score, that's not good. That means your body's under high stress, and you're the one who's pretty much in charge of that. You're gonna have the ability to kind of monitor your daily activity, monitor your daily routine, and optimize it. We have a bunch of different videos on specifically how to do that, so check those out. Question number 3 is, what is a good HRV value? There's really no right answer for what is a good HRV value. Obviously, you want it to be higher, right? The higher the HRV, the better. But we know that with age, HRV naturally decreases, right? There's just some things, Father Time is undefeated. So certain things, you know, and it's also going to depend on your lifestyle. In terms of what is a good HRV value, you are going to start with your own baseline, and you're going to be the one to determine where you want that number to be. So that's not the best question because every person is unique, but in general, the higher the better. Question number 3, what affects HRV? So what causes HRV to go up or down? Well, you will notice that in the morning, your HRV is probably the highest. Your body hasn't had enough time to accumulate any stress unless, you know, you wake up on the wrong side of the bed or something. I don't know what happened to you. But typically, the rigors of everyday activity is what's going to bring that HRV down if you're not good at dealing with stressors, right? And these stressors can come from everything from, you know, your work, being tired and not getting enough sleep and having an unhealthy meal. All these factors will affect HRV. There are things that positively affect HRV. Obviously, one of the things that has been scientifically proven is yoga and deep breathing, right? So what happens, you know, from a scientific perspective, when you are breathing, you're slowing down your heart rate. And if you get good enough at it, that's why everyone always talks about meditation and how good it is. And it's true. It's something that has been studied with HRV and without HRV as, you know, being a very good way to reduce stress. And the fact that they've included heart rate variability in some of these studies, just further proof that, you know, meditation and deep breathing is a good thing. So lots of things can affect your heart rate variability. Question number 5, we get a lot. What does a low HRV mean? Back to the same thing. You know, you're going to have to analyze your daily routine yourself, right? And what you're doing during the day. And it's going to take, you know, if you drink every day or if you drink on certain days, if you're eating out, try to remove that part and then see how heart rate variability is the following week, the following 2 weeks, right? These are things that you can do yourself, but the common things that we normally see affecting heart rate variability is really things that are putting high stress on you and your brain. It's a really unique look into that brain heart body connection, right? So whatever your brain determines as a stressful situation, it's going to affect your HRV. When people say, oh, that person's better at dealing with stress, that person's worse at dealing with stress, those are all really true things, because one person might see a challenge as an opportunity and another person will see a challenge and think of it as a high stress situation. While both of them are experiencing the same thing, one person's HRV will be lowered significantly and the other's maybe not as much. Number 6, the question we get, I kind of already answered this. Does breathing improve your HRV? Hell yes, it does. However, one important thing to note, it's a short term. Like if you're having a really bad day, your HRV is very low in the evening after work, try doing a deep breathing exercises. It's going to give you that short bump in the short term, but in the long term, you can see breathing. If you're doing meditation and deep breathing every single day, it's going to affect HRV, but essentially it's going to be fine-tuning your brain and training your brain to relax in certain situations. So that in and itself is going to improve your HRV. So long story short, yes, breathing does improve HRV if you stick to the program. Number 7, heart rate variability and stress. What's the connection? Kind of been talking about it the whole time. It is the connection between the brain, your heart, and your body, and how everything works in unison. A great example that I always give, your brain doesn't discern from different stressful situations. Some people will hate going to work, and right away, the first thing in the day, they're going to be hit with that stress ball. Or, you know, it doesn't matter what it is, what situation in your life that causes high stress. Your brain processes that stress the same way as if you were getting attacked by a bear, right? Maybe not to the same level. Think about it this way. If your brain doesn't discern the two stressors, you are telling your brain it's stress. Both of these things are stress. So it's like every single morning when you go to work or whatever it is you're doing, you are encountering a bear and you have to fight it off every single day. So that's how your brain is interpreting stress. That's kind of the idea, right? That's kind of what you're putting your body through every time you are dealing with these stressors that can potentially be avoided. Question number 8. Effects of heart rate variability by age. kind of talked about this one. The older you are, your heart rate variability is probably going to go down just by nature. I mean, as you get older, it's harder to do things, you know, maybe unless, I don't know, unless you're The Rock and you're taking some kind of special juice. Maybe his HRV is fine. I don't know. Question number 9. We're almost done. How do I actually monitor HRV? What products are out there? Well, obviously, I would recommend our product, the iOS Smart Sleeve. You can go with other products. I'm not ashamed to mention competitors. You got a bunch of good ones. You got Whoop. You have Oura Ring. You have the Apple Watch. You know, all these products do a good thing, but the iOS Sleeve main focus is heart rate variability, so it's a really good option. You guys should try it out. And number 10, why should I track HRV? I always say, you know, cars and machinery that people, you know, companies use at factories, each one of those things has a sensor, right? You have a check engine light. You have a sensor when your windshield wiper fluid is down. All of these machineries at factories have sensors if something goes wrong, something with the hydraulics, some technical electrical issue, but our bodies don't have that. And I always say that heart rate variability is that tool for humans. It's our check engine light. There's nothing like it. You know, I think it's great to use some of these products like, you know, Fitbits and using, like we call them motivational products. They're going to get you out there. You know, you're going to be competing for steps with, you know, friends, people at the office, which is great. But heart rate variability is a real tool that is going to give you deep insights into what you're doing. Like, what are you doing throughout the day that's causing you stress? And you can really narrow it down. Everything from your workouts to not overwork, because if you're overworking at the gym, you're not doing yourself any favors and you're not letting yourself recover, and you're just going down a spiral. And with food, you know, obviously we know that fast food is unhealthy, but there's foods that are specifically harmful to you that may not be to me, that you would have never thought. And that's another thing. You get to learn about yourself. Not to mention how many times we've talked about stress in this episode. So all of these things are major reasons why you should be monitoring your HRV daily. It's a useful tool. It's been around for decades, and it's something that's just going to continue to grow, and more people are really going to implement it. All right, guys, thanks for watching the whole video. If you got to this point, please just hit the subscribe, will ya? If you don't, I love you anyway. Cheers.